You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's September 16th, 2021. Hey, have you seen the Democrats' new tax proposal? As if you didn't have enough reasons to move out of New York and out of California, it will give you even more. The effective tax rate in New York City will be close to 62%, and in California, it will be 59%. There's all sorts of goodies for everyone here. It's enough to make you want to move out of the country. Well, we've got financial expert Jeff Socha on with us now. And Jeff, welcome back. Hey, if you got a question, what do you think of this tax proposal? Shoot me an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. Jeff, so eat the rich. That's the name of the game here, right?
Eat the rich.
PJ O'Rourke had a book out a number of years ago called Eat the Rich. And basically that this idea that you're going to tax the rich to balance the budget, to make everything fair, it's just never going to happen, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way the economy works is, let's just think about that. A lot of times people think this notion of like stick it to the man, the business owner. Okay, well, if you just go to any business owner and you say, hey, I'm going to take 5% of your money. Okay, well, they don't just sit there and say, okay, here you go. They're going to end up changing the economics of that business. They're going to end up finding ways to reduce headcount, find ways to cut costs somewhere to make up for it. They're going to, raise prices. And, when they raise prices, who bears the brunt of that? The consumer, which is all of us. So, I think there's a fairy tale idea that you can go to somebody who's, deemed rich, whatever that definition the government decides it is, and take their money, and that those people will just give it to you without making any other changes in their life or in their business or in their decisions. And I just think that's not the case. They end up making decisions as a result of it that affect us all.
Hey, look, under the new tax law, so if I report $100,000 worth of income, I am going to pay, anywhere from, under this rule here, 30 to say 60%, depending on where I live. Probably a little less than that on the top end, but at least 33%, 28%, something like that, plus your state tax. And if you're in New York City, you pay a city income tax for the privilege of living in that declining, failing city with psychos walking around, homeless, overrunning it. You get all these benefits, Jeff, for paying all this extra tax. Or I could just go take that $100,000. I could actually borrow money and leverage it and buy $100,000 worth of equipment, write it off the first year, because that's what you get to do under the Section 179 bonus depreciation statute. Yeah. And then I'm not going to pay anything. This is what Amazon does.
Yeah.
This is what Tesla does. Basically, they just keep putting it into CapEx.
Sure.
Overspending on CapEx, overspending on research and development. And, a lot of these tax shelters are available to the average Joe businessman, not to employees. So the employees get to pay it, but the business owners don't, and certainly the super rich don't. And this is just more of the same. Shouldn't they really be looking at overhauling the tax system, just throwing out what we have here, starting over again? Because it's become basically a free-for-all, and it's like, it's got nothing to do with your actual bracket, your income bracket. It's got to do with your knowledge bracket and the ability to bring on professionals who have the knowledge you need. The more you can spend on them, the less you're going to pay.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part of it, right? If you're big companies like what you're talking about, they got the best resources available to help them be as efficient as possible. And really, I think the people that probably lose the most are your average neighborhood entrepreneur. It's the business owner next door. It's, the guy with the local plumbing shop or whatever that's going to really, really just be getting worked over. And so, I don't know why people feel like that's okay. I don't know the answer for how to get us out of this mess, but I think having a balanced budget is a place that the government should start. And so there's two sides. There's the revenue, and there's the revenue, and then there's the spending. And the part that feels really like the free for all is the spending.
Yeah, well, it's spending all that money. You get to do great things and never have to suffer the consequences of your folly. Like half the federal budget, probably maybe even 2/3, could just be tossed in the garbage, and no one would know the difference. And the proof of that, Jeff, is when you get a snowstorm in Washington, D.C., and they say only essential employees need to show up, and the place is empty because there are no essential employees other than the cops, the Army, armed forces to some extent. Otherwise, everybody else is optional. So maybe the thing to do is say only essential employees show up. You see who they are, and then you fire everybody else.
Yeah, I can hear the frustration. I mean, I don't know, but it seems like we haven't, as a country, thought about the idea of a balanced budget since the 90s. I mean, I think Clinton is actually the last one that had a balanced budget, right?
Clinton, we had it, but that was because they were cheating on the Social Security. But you know all that. Nobody cares anymore. There's no incentive for fiscal responsibility in this modern monetary theory. They can just do anything they want under the justification that it's necessary, and then just print the money, print the difference, and that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary game that we're on. It's I think everybody could probably understand if you have some extraordinary circumstance, but it seems like over the last 20 years it's just been constant.
Yeah. Zero fiscal responsibility, zero fiscal sanity. And
really, the U.S. is the only country that in the world that seems to be able to get away with it.
Reserve currency, U.S.
Because of the currency, right? And being the world reserve currency. So if you and I managed our household budgets the way the government does, we would be filing bankruptcy.
Yeah, well, let's print our own money and just send out worthless pieces of paper to all of our creditors, and they took it and said, okay, thank you. Then we could keep this charade going forever, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's I don't know how the end of this story goes. I hope the U.S. finds a way to stay in the position they're in today.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. So what do you do about this? How do you protect your wealth? Besides moving to Puerto Rico, where they have a 4% income tax. And believe me, I've thought about it before, but Puerto Rico is a place that's the 4% tax is held for ransom, the price of which is living there. And I've been to Puerto Rico many times, don't get me wrong. It's a great place. The kids love it. We've had great times there. We really have. But, the idea of picking up to just not have to pay any tax is a little extreme, isn't it?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the idea of not paying tax, I think, is also not realistic. So, I mean, as far as taking care of ourselves, you've got to focus on managing your budget. There's not a lot we can do about taxes. The government imposes them. And, if you don't like what the politicians are imposing, then you've got to vote different politicians. There are consequences to the politicians that are elected. And if you elect politicians that want to raise taxes, then you're going to pay more taxes. And if you want to pay less taxes, then vote politicians that are in favor of some reduced tax. So I think that's really, really the core of it. I mean, when you talk about how businesses can manage their expenses and whether or not they're investing in more equipment or research and development, et cetera, of course, you can be smart to make decisions that the government gives us incentives. I mean, as an employee, the government gives us an incentive to save for retirement. They give us 401k plans, things that allow us to save money pre-tax. Some companies have deferred compensation plans or defined benefit plans that allow us to save money pre-tax. So there's incentives, for us to save and be smart. The best thing to do is just, you've got to take control of your own finances. You got to be proactive. You've got to live below your means, save, invest. I think, you mentioned people paying a third of their money to the government. Okay, well, that leaves 2/3 left over. So how much are you going to spend today and how much are you going to set aside for tomorrow? And I think when it comes to our own personal financial responsibility, I just usually use a very simple test. I say, hey, if you were going to make money for 2 years, make money for 1 year and have to live on it for 2 years, how much money would you spend in the first year? And it's not a trick question. I think a lot of people would probably say half, because they'd say, okay, if I spent half in the first year, I'd have half left for the second year. Great. Well, most Americans have the idea of working for 40 years and then they're going to be retired for potentially 40 years. Okay, so how much should you save while you're working? I don't know, maybe half. And that's not a real popular answer to put out there. But the other thing about the tax law changes is, this is a pretty thorough proposal, and it seems a lot more realistic than a lot of the headlines that were coming our way. It kind of makes me wonder if some of the headlines were out there to scare us. Okay, you're going to have 40% capital gains tax. That way, when a proposal comes out to make it 25, you're all happy about it. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up sticking. I don't think anybody will know until it's voted on and passed into law. But
yep, I think you're right. Well, hey, it's going to be interesting here. There's a lot of noise going on. Yeah, they put up the trial balloons to make you think, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And then 26.5% tax for corporations. Oh, gee, that's not so bad, even though it's worse than communist China. Well, Jeff, we're going to see how it shakes out, but you should be planning now. People want to find out more about you, Jeff, connect with you on the web. Where do you go?
Yeah, you can find me on any social channel, or you can just go to my website, jeffsocha.com, and check me out there.
All right. Hey, appreciate you coming on. I got a question for Jeff. Email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. Make sure you sign up for your free newsletter, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Jeff, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kerry. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.